The city of Houston's credit worthiness took a hit this week when rating agency S&P altered its assessment of our municipality's finances from stable to negative. Now, to be clear, S&P's action was not what the industry calls a downgrade, which is much more serious. However, this red flag does confirm something we've all known, that is, despite taking in more revenue year after year, the city has managed to spend every nickel it's brought in and then some, leaving very little financial wiggle room. When you throw in the necessary settlement of a festering billion-dollar labor liability owed to firefighters and the general reluctance of taxpayers to shoulder a bigger share of the load, folks like S&P question whether the city of Houston can make ends meet. Panel, we've talked on this show about a number of options: money from Metro, money from the state, money from eliminating waste, and money saved by sunsetting expensive employee pensions. Bill King has written about the option of clawing back some money from the TERSs.
Yeah, you know, what's amazing about these rating agencies, you know, the last controller, all 8 years, warned that this was coming. You know, a lot of people, including myself, some of my colleagues at Rice, have been writing about this for over a decade. And all of a sudden, S&P wakes up and says, oh, wait a minute, it looks like we got a negative outlook in Houston. Seriously. Look, the big problems in Houston: we gave away half our sales tax to Metro. We're giving away about 20% of our property taxes to TERS. We've got defined benefit pension plans, which nobody else in the world has except government employees anymore. Those are the three big problems that we've got in the finances, and something's got to be done about those. Property taxes, even with the limitation on council raising it, have gone up 8% year over year. How many of you out there have gotten an 8% year over year raise at where you work? City revenues are up over 6% a year. Look, this is not a revenue problem. We need to completely restructure city government and bring it more into line with what citizens can afford while providing the services.
Tamara Bell, you're a dollars and cents person. You got accounting background. What's your take?
My take on this is this. I understand that we needed to settle with the firefighters, but as I told you all, I came from union. I bleed union. In Gary, Indiana, you ain't in the union, you ain't working. But you do negotiate. You don't just get an offer and say, okay, we signing off on it without negotiating. I'm not surprised S&P did this at all. And I've been saying we ain't broke. It's where we spending our money at that's putting us in this situation. And if they really, I said it on the show, you don't just come in and then spend a bunch of money when you haven't seen what you already got before you go out and get a bond. Because I promise you, there's plenty in the kitty if you find out where it's hidden.
Well, Gary, we've identified it at Metro, we've identified it at the TERSs.
Yeah, a couple of points. Number one, the answer is not raising taxes on hardworking taxpayers. Just forget it. That's not happening. Number two, there was a critical election 8 years ago for mayor, and Sylvester Turner won. If Bill King had become mayor, we would not be looking at this problem today. That is an absolute fact.
All right, Marcus, you're a business owner?
Yes, and I got to take it further than that. Gary, I know you believe that it started on Sylvester Turner, but in 2010, 11, 12, when Ronald Green was the city comptroller, Moody issued this warning saying that, hey, we're going to you're potentially going to get a downgrade because of the looming money that the city of Houston is going to owe, and there's a gap. And Moody warned us about this in 2010, 2011. And I've talked about it on this program. That's when Mayor Anise Parker was the mayor. So this goes back further than the current mayor, goes back further than the last mayor, goes back even further than the previous mayor. This is not new. We haven't done anything about it, but we've got to do something different. And, you know, the panelists have offered some great suggestions. We just need to follow them. One of the things tomorrow said is you can't come in and spend money without seeing what you already owe. But also you can't come in and spend money without first. In my business, we have a saying, sales cures a lot of problems. So the first thing you got to do is find out where we can make more money in the city and where we can save more money in the city before we spend more money in the city.
Okay, April, you heard everybody here. What sounds good to you? You know,
we need to have a system where we can eliminate waste, and we've been seeing John Whitmire clean up City Hall, and we've been seeing him out. Lots of people stealing a lot of money. I just wonder how much more we can claw back from fraud.
Bill, I mean, the reality is the unions are too politically powerful to give up their pensions. Is that a fair statement?
Well, you know, I ran on that both times, and both, you know, the police and fire unions were mad at me for talking about the problem. But I think they've begun to realize that, you know, these plans are not sustainable. The demographics, it just doesn't work anymore. And look, I don't think we ought to take benefits that have already been earned away from people. I've always said that, which, by the way, which is what Sylvester did in the firefighter
With the
plan.
COLA.
And that was not right. But look, you stop offering these plans to new people coming in. We don't need these plans to recruit. Nobody in the private sector has these anymore. Stop it now, and we'll eventually work our way out of the problem.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again.